Okay, how's your game going so far? Hopefully you've got a main character that moves around the screen following the mouse pointer, and you have an object for your character to collect that moves to a random position every time your character collects it. So what else do we want to add to our game to make it more interesting for the player? So we will add an enemy at some point that's chasing our character around and making it quite difficult to collect the star. But what happens when we collect the star? Is there something that changes on the screen that you notice? So yes, in the top left of the screen, you'll notice that we've got something called a score, which appears to be going up every time we collect the star. And I'm going to show you how we can create that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use something called a variable. So variables are used in coding a lot. Effectively, a variable is a value or a number that goes up or down. Now that's great because we're using a score and we know that we want our score to go up. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to create our own variable. So if we go down the side here, we're going to go to variables, and you can see here this option here, make a variable, and we're going to make our own variable, okay, and we're going to call it score or points, whatever we want. So I'm going to call it points, okay, and we press OK. Now what we're interested in is these two commands here, which is to set our variable or points and change our variable by 1, okay. Now if we set points, this means that whatever number we put here, our variable, this points number that's being displayed here, will immediately go to that number. This change points by 1 means that the value of points, whatever number that is going to change by 1. So if it's 0, it will go to 1. If it was 6, it would go to 7. And if it was 11, it would go to 12. So it changes by 1 or increases by 1. So which of these two blocks do we want to use for our bit of code on the star, do you think? Okay, that's right. We're going to want to use change my variable. So we need to change this here, and we want to make sure it says points. So we want to change points by 1. Now, where do we put this command though? Where is it that we want points to increase by 1? Or what kind of event that happens in our game do we want to cause the points to increase by 1? So have a look at here. Where do you think in my bit of code I would put this command? Why don't you point on the screen to where you think this should go? Should it be here? So if I press the green flag, points should go up by 1. Okay. Okay. Or where else do you think it should be? Here? What about if I put it there? Oh, what's happening to my points now? Why is that happening? Forever change points by 1. Of course, it's in the forever loop. Okay. So you may have worked out that actually we want it to change points by 1 if the star touches the diver. So you can put it here or here. I don't think it really matters, but you can experiment. So if the star touches the diver, then go to random position and change points by 1. Now the problem at the moment though is when I start the game, my points are on 291. That doesn't seem like it makes very much sense. So what do you think I need to do over here? Or what command do I think I need to use? So you might have figured out, actually, we want to set points to 0, okay, at some point. When would it make sense for us to set points to 0? So why don't you point on your screen to where you think you would put this command? Okay, so what if I put it here? Because that makes sense, doesn't it? Set points to 0 there. Yep, set points to 0. Oh, but my points aren't going up. Can you figure out why that's happening? Well, let's have a look at our code. Forever set points to 0. So for the whole game, points are going to be 0. So it obviously isn't there. Now we might need to just break them up a bit. And you were probably right, you pointed in the first place, that actually we want points to go to 0 when we press the green flag. So if I press the green flag, the first thing that's going to happen is the game will set points to 0. So if I press the green flag, we can see points have been set to 0. But when I collect the star, the points are changing by 1 or increasing by 1. So at the moment my game is quite easy and it's relatively fun, but I think we could make it more challenging. What do you think we could add to our game now to make it more challenging? So while I'm thinking about how I can make my game more challenging, I'd like you to make a variable called points or score and make that variable change by 1 when your character collects the item. Have a go.